Okay, I think I'm streaming on Twitch. So, this is Eric Amras. I am a senior lecturer at RPI at in the GSAS department and also the Cognitive Science department. I shouldn't introduce myself too much because that's part of my lecture. But anyway, I wanted to welcome you to summer 2020. We are doing remote here, and this is sort of day one of the summer arch. So, welcome to the online version of my Intro to Game Programming class. This is me. Hello, how are you doing? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Wish I was actually saying, I guess I'm good to be seen, not so much good to see you because I haven't seen you yet. Hopefully I do shortly, soon. Okay. So let's go back. So welcome to Intro to Game Programming. This is going to be obviously a different semester. We started doing a bit of the remote edition last semester when this whole pandemic set in, but now we're going remote for the whole semester. So what's the plan? What to expect? What I expect from you? And back and forth. Okay, so hopefully the course isn't going to be that much different in terms of the content of the course. And a lot of the things that we're going to do in the course, the projects, the use of LMS, all that kind of stuff is going to be very similar. One big thing is that the summer arch, we have 12 weeks instead of the usual 14. So we're going to change things up just a little bit in order to kind of cram things in a little. There is going to be the schedule updated on LMS as well. This is really just the quick intro a quick intro lecture. My goal is to keep the lectures, since they are pre-recorded, I want to keep them fairly short, somewhere on the order of 30 minutes or so. This way you can, if you want, you can watch a couple a day, or you can watch one a week and still get, somewhere 2.5, 3, whatever hours of material in, as well as giving lots of room for all the fun online kind of stuff that we can do. We do rely heavily on a lot of things, and we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so let's kind of just roll into this in the normal way. All right, so first off, in talking about Intro to Game Programming, the big question becomes, okay, who is this class for? And you may be very well asking yourself that. All right, so anyone who wants or needs to understand firsthand what it means to program games, in other words, all GSAS majors here at RPI, or anyone who has a curiosity in game development, game programming, and wants to see, kind of start to finish what you can accomplish using something like Unity. So experience is desired but not required. Normally this is a first year course for GSAS majors. Obviously you guys over the summer arch are a little bit unusual. You're certainly not incoming freshmen. So we will leave things up to sort of figuring out how we go. We can adapt as we go to kind of make things more challenging, more interesting. We're always able to go into other subjects. I'm going to turn down my volume just a little bit because I think I see it peaking. So let's see. Yeah, getting used to this. I'm using, for those of you, because we are all techies here, I'm using OBS Streamer. I'm recording this live, and I'm also recording it to Twitch. So it's going to be up on Twitch for 14 days. It's 2 weeks. It remains on Twitch, and then, or at some point, I am going to also put it up on YouTube. So this way it will be there for a while, but it will be around. That's the idea, so that you can kind of refer back to this. This is technically, we're calling this a asynchronous course, meaning you don't have to be there during the normal hours. I think normally we're saying Monday and Friday in the afternoon, but they kind of just plugged in kind of arbitrary hours at this point. So what I'd like to do is to use Discord and things to kind of get us all on the same page, and then we can kind of figure out what works best for everybody. So there is going to be a wide range of backgrounds, I'm sure, and we'll use that to our advantage as much as we can. There are minimums in the course, which means we're looking for you to demonstrate proficiency in certain things that we're going to learn, certain things in C#, certain things in the Unity engine, certain things in game programming in general, but there generally are no maximums. So you can go above and beyond that. If you find a particular area that you're interested in going deeper into, we can do that as well. However, I am going to always ask that before you go taking deep dives into esoteric or, unusual things in the class, that you demonstrate mastery of the basics. That's where I'm going to start the grading from. You have to show me that you understand those pieces first, and then we can build on top of that. That is the idea. Okay, so by way of introductions, all right, you're probably wondering, who am I? Why am I here? And so on and so on. So let's see. I used to have a scene here. Let's see. Let me transition over here so I can kind of say hi as we're talking about this. So I'll start. Normally we go around the room, but obviously we can't do that. So hopefully I would like you all to post on the introductions on our Discord channel on the Discord server that I've set up for Intro to Game Programming, so I can learn about you all, and you can also learn about one another as well. So I'm starting. I'm Eric Amorous. Amorous rhymes with glamorous, if you're ever wondering how to pronounce it. So if you want to say Professor Amorous, Dr. Amorous, hey you, Mr. Amorous, whatever, it's not Mr. You want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. So yes, you have a bona fide Dr. Amorous here to teach. So I am an RPI student through and through, or what rather I was. My bachelor's, master's were in computer and systems engineering here at RPI back in the day. And my PhD is in cognitive science, also from here at RPI. So if you are COGS majors, if you're COGS Sci majors, or your computer systems or your computer science, happy to talk to you about all those things. I am a proud RPI parent, class of 2016 and 2018, so you really can ask me anything as it relates to RPI. Happy to talk about that. Before joining the GSAS department, I actually worked at MPAC for almost a dozen years as well. So I have a lot of history in kind of sort of real-time interactive media and art, and very happy to talk about that. You can see me here actually in a production at MPAC. That's me as the ghost of Carl Sagan. Love interesting projects. Okay, seriously. Professionally, I developed tools, usually middleware, so not games themselves, but the tools that people use to make games for Atari, once upon a time, when Atari was still a hardware company, believe it or not. Sega, worked on the Saturn and Dreamcast and various programs for that. Sony, Microsoft, Apple, Adobe, Google, and many others. So I've had a fairly broad experience on various platforms and things. So again, if you have any kind of broad, far-reaching questions, let me know. Happy to talk about them. My favorite games, to break the ice, I love adventure games. I love survival horror games. Now playing, I didn't add this to the list yet, but I just picked up a copy on Steam. I picked up Alien Isolation. I'm looking forward to playing that. And also saw Call of Cthulhu is on sale this week, so maybe I have to pick that up. I'm a huge Steam purchaser, collector. But I also been playing Bioshock Amnesia, great survival horror game on the Mac. A little old now. Some of these are getting a little older. I love classics. A couple years old. Borderlands, Life is Strange, really fun kind of almost, I guess, an RPG, role-playing different. Zelda, Breath of the Wild, love Zelda games. Love in a Dangerous Space-Time. Yeah, a real good, fun party game. Like party games as well. So kind of casual games, side-scrollers, platformers, shoot-em-ups, all sorts, 3D and 2D games. So big fan of those. So how to reach me. Now, normally my office would be in West Hall, 312A. Hopefully we get back to that someday soon, maybe in the fall, I would hope. So later on, you can always track me down there. Normally my office hours would be Tuesday and Thursday, kind of afternoon and morning, but nowadays it's going to be mostly by appointment. So anytime you want to get a hold of me, just go to Twitch, well, if I'm streaming on Twitch, feel free to reach out, or go to the Discord server. I'm there, I'm on Discord almost all the time. And you can certainly also email me at any time. My RPI email, just at ameree@rpi.edu. So on Twitch and Discord, I'm Eraser Mice. You can kind of figure out the significance of that name if you like. That's worth a point on some homework, I guess, or something like that, if you can figure it out. And on YouTube, I have a couple of different channels, but the main channel I use is something called Learn Max, and I did a lot of Max MSP programming on there, as well as some, hobby robotics and things. But lately, I'm using that for my Unity and Unreal and other game development tutorials and lessons and so on. So you can find things over there as well. I'll be posting some things on there as life goes on. So, okay, so what are we going to be doing in the class? We're going to be using the Blackboard system quite a bit. That's where we're going to have sort of our persistent data or persistent information. Use it a lot. It is clunky, but it is your friend. lms.rpi.edu. You all have accounts on there. You can all check in things. I know a lot of you have already come to the Discord channel, checked it out, so you must have gotten the announcements from there, which is great. So I'll be posting things on there. It's also where you're going to submit part of the homework. You're going to see the lecture notes all going to be posted up there. Some of the updates of the homeworks are going to be up there, but the way that homework's going to be submitted probably a lot different than most of your classes, because we're going to be doing it through the Unity engine itself, and Unity is the platform that we really use in the class. So the course syllabus and schedule are going to be on LMS. Now I'm going to get my picture out of there so I don't wind up occluding any important information on there. So course syllabus and schedule are going to be on LMS, and they are live published documents. I love using Google Docs, so I'm going to give you links to those as well. So if I do edit things, update things, they will be there and available to you. Yes, so I'm usually, what I try to do is make sure that they are available ahead of time, so this way people have the most fresh version of the notes. So this document is going to be also live on LMS. This is a Google document that I'm updating as we go. Try to keep it interesting. All right. Next, here we go. There is an optional text to this class, from concept to playable game with Unity and C#, Introduction to Game Design, Prototyping, and Development. A guy by the name of Jeremy Bond wrote it. It's a really good book. The most current version, I believe, is still 2018. It is not covering the most recent version of Unity, but it doesn't really diverge from from the materials that we're covering in the class that much. I think I do take a bit more of a forward-looking approach to some of the programming, a little bit more, getting a little bit deeper into some of the computer science aspects of things. But if you do pick up the book, it's definitely worthwhile. It's a good book, lots of great examples in there, and at least one of the homeworks is almost taken. You can more or less use the apple picker in the book. I think you can do a better job, and certainly pay attention. I'll know if you're copying it from the book or you're using the actually paying attention during the lectures based on how you implement certain things. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so what is game programming? What is this all about? For those of you who don't have the experience, after all, we did say no experience required. But by game programming, we're going to refer to coding or scripting or programming, and call it whatever you will. It's not a particular programming language. It's not necessarily even, kind of text-based languages. There are other languages that can be used. And so conceptually, what is programming? Programming is the process of taking an algorithm, an idea, a function, a menu, an experience, and somehow encoding it into some notation or some programming language so that it can be executed by a computer. Yes, it's getting the computer to do what you want. It is getting the computer the instructions it needs in the format that it needs it to realize your particular vision. So you might say to yourself, oh, hey, whoa, hey, no, I don't want to be a coder. I don't want to be one of those guys who sits in a cubicle all day or, whatever. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I don't really need to know this stuff, do I? Well, everybody in the class has some alternative angles on things here. I mean, typically you don't come to programming just for the sake of don't come to game programming specifically for the sake of programming. Some people do. I mean, the act of programming itself is really cool and challenging. I like that. But most people come to it with some other aspect as well. So they sometimes, they're a programmer first and an artist second, or writer or musician, so on and so on. So consider everybody here to have an artistic outlook on things a little bit. So even if you are one of those other things, even if you don't think you'll be a coder, you will likely be working closely with them. Certainly on game development, you're going to have to be working as part of a team, and somebody's going to have to do the coding. So you want to know the lingo, you want to know the walk, you want to know the talk, you want to be able to get in there and understand what's going on. And certainly with regards to other classes, you're going to want to also be able to participate in things that the team is working on. You may very well need to be one of the programmers because you have a limited number of resources and so on. So I realize I'm talking rather quickly. I'll try to slow my pace just a little bit. It's challenging here in these new times here. So anyway, sooner or later you're going to be taking your creative output and you want it to be to make it come alive in a game via programming that either you're doing or somebody else is doing. So learn how to talk about it. learn how to communicate with and among coders, right? So yeah, we have to kind of disassociate ourselves from this notion, this myth of clear definitions, where you can either be a programmer or an artist or a producer or a writer or a designer, and you don't have to worry about any of the other things. Clearly, that's not the case. The reality of game development is this wonderful kind of murky melange of, sure, you specialize a bit, but you generalize in a lot of ways as well, to kind of figure out, okay, I need to understand what the process is, and I need to know enough to kind of make valid assumptions and to make to put things in ways that are going to help me get my ideas out there. So back to programming though. All right, so what is fundamentally programming? Programming, we're going to deal with two sorts of things. There's four on the screen here, but you can kind of think there are two sets of two things: rules and data, or actions and objects, right? Rules are actions, data, and objects, right? You have something, you have some data that you either collect or that you produce, and you have some rules for producing that data or actions to take on that data, right? So you have the verbs and the nouns, right? The verbs are the rules or the actions, and the nouns are the data and the objects, the things that you're acting on or that cause something to have things happen, right? So it's a piece of cake, right? You're going to get all this stuff. You're going to figure it out all right away. You understand this, right? Piece of cake. Well, probably not. Probably not. It takes time. The expectations, after all, for those of you who aren't programmers, and again, I think this semester, the summer arch, I think you're leaning a little bit towards the programming side, but let me know. Let me see your introductions. Let me see. I'm going to go over things, see where we're going to go on this. But this is considered to be an introduction course, and some of you just have an interest in it. So we'll take the advice that Jake the dog gives us here.
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of good at something.
Right? You have to be prepared to suck at it first, to not get it, to not understand it, to kind of work through it, to make the mistakes, and so on. And that's the important thing. One of the important things about this course. And I like to say that there is no shame flute. We aren't barbarians. We're not going to punish people for taking a chance. The shame flute was this a device, a medieval kind of torture device, a pillorying device that would shame bad musicians for crimes against music. So can you imagine that? So they would kind of shame these people for creating these crimes against music and being bad. We're not going to do that here. We're going to work through things. We're going to learn from our mistakes. We're going to take advantage of this journey here. We're going to actually use the process to improve ourselves. We're going to take chances, make mistakes, grow with the process, right? The secret is enjoying the challenge. I attribute this quote to Sisyphus. I'm sure Sisyphus didn't say that. The myth of Sisyphus is actually, it was a king, and he was punished by the gods for being too crafty, being too having too much ambition, right? So his punishment was to every day he would roll this enormous rock up this mountain, and then every night it would fall down again, and you have to do the same thing the next day. So, but what if it turns out, imagine, said Sisyphus, that's what he likes to do. He likes to roll rocks. He likes to get exercise. He likes to get out in the outdoors, and then this is his thing. All right. So he can resign himself to enjoying the challenge and make it more bearable that way. Now, maybe that's not the case, and this is typically referred to as sort of a maddening task, but, you have to look for the bright side of things. So we'll do that in our programming. So, okay, wait a minute, you get it. I'm sure you're all saying yourselves, all right, we get it now. Programming is hard. It's a thing. We have to learn it. We have to do whatever. But why am I taking a course in game programming versus just taking another programming course? What is different about game programming? So the main thing that I think is different about game programming is the notion that it is interactive. It's interaction, interaction, interaction. And that interaction occurs at some human scale, whether it be in time and space, right? You typically look at the game, you connect with the game either by you're manipulating objects, or you're in a world, or you're moving some character throughout a world in real time, and you develop a connection to this game in a way that's much more than just say, okay, data in, data out of computer science, right? This is part and parcel of creating games, that you have to be thinking about the user. It's not just a puzzle. It's not just to send in a clue and get something back out. It's always about that connection with the player, and usually nowadays on a real-time a real-time scale with also this kind of connection to often a virtual or alternate reality in terms of the simulation piece of things. So game programming is quite different. You have to think about things. You have to think about optimization and think about real-time and think about not necessarily doing things the perfect way, but often doing things the way that present themselves well to the user, right? It's not important to get necessarily all simulations perfect, to have a perfect fluid simulation, but to have one that gets the point across. If you have water in the stream, it'd be great to have perfectly simulated water, but if that comes at some cost, well, you have to be able to do it good enough, and that's perfectly fine for a game. So the type of programming and the type of approach, the mindset is going to be a bit different than pure theoretical computer science. So in the course, we're going to use Unity, the latest version, 2019.3.14. Okay, that's the version, that's the main tool we're going to be using, and we're going to be using the C# language with that. So we're going to get to C# through Visual Studio. You're going to install that as part of installing Unity, and once you install it, 2019.3.14, 3.14, I like that. It's kind of the Pi version of Unity. We're going to stick with that, right? You don't want to upgrade unless there's a really, really compelling reason. Why? Because the class projects, you don't want to become out of phase with me, because I'm going to have that on my machine. You're going to be submitting projects. We're going to make sure that it works. If it works on your machine, it has to work on my machine, and so on and so on. We don't want to be like having compatibility issues. So there's no reason to really change unless we all discover, we all agree that there's some bug to some reason to move beyond 2019 3.14. So we'll stick with the quote unquote the Pi edition. All right. So we'll do that. Don't be tempted to change. All right. So if we're programming, the course is about programming, are you going to be judged about the artsy stuff in your games? What about that artsy stuff? Where's that going to come from? We don't have those skills, perhaps. So you're going to be judged on them? Nope. You're not going to be judged on your art skills. And it is okay in this class to use pre-made assets for now. Okay, if this is another class, if this is Game Dev 1, Game Dev 2, etc., you're going to be using original assets. But in here, we're going to grab stuff we got off the internet. That's totally fine. Hopefully it's reasonably licensed. You shouldn't be stealing stuff, but you don't have to create your visual assets from scratch necessarily. So for example, you might use from Kenny.nl, you might go to itch.io, and you might go to any number of other websites out there that offer you all sorts of cool game stuff. Normally, for the most part, we're going to be using 2D graphics in this course because we're going to be looking at the C# language, and a lot of concepts they're going to lend themselves to 3D programming as well, 3D games development as well. But we're not going to get too caught up in that, because especially when it comes to the assets and the art and the scenes and so on, it's really tricky, really fast in 3D. So we're going to kind of avoid that for now. Add a little bit of that towards the end, but anyway, same goes for sound and music. You don't have to create original music. You can use, just whatever freesound.org or archive.org or any number of other different sources. Even if you want to use commercial tracks, if you have some reason, if you have some pop music that you want to use for some reason, then okay. I encourage you to use stuff that is royalty free. Just in case you wind up wanting to use it in a game. So there are royalty-free assets out there. You can grab your royalty-free music and so on. Totally fine for now. Don't get hung up on it. You don't need the perfect music. You don't need the perfect graphics. You need to learn the programming for now. Okay, after all, this is because it is Intro to Game Programming, and that's what you're going to be judged upon. That's what we're going to be working on, the quality of your code, the quality of what you put into practice. We're going to want to do things properly. We're going to want to have comments in our code. We want to have identifiers. We want to have well-formed code. We want to have readable code. We want to have sustainable, maintainable code. So it is going to be about the coding. This is Intro to Game Programming, after all. Okay, so we'll stick with that. What are we going to do throughout the course? Okay, there's going to be 4 projects. And the first project, we're going to actually kind of speed it up from semesters past. It's going to be simplified and watered down just a little bit if you've heard about past semesters. I'm not going to talk in this about going through every single one of these lines, but you can get this material. This is all, like I said, this is over on LMS. This is going to be posted there so you can get at it. So Each one of the projects, the idea is that you're going to be introduced to various pieces of Unity and also functionality of the C# programming language. Hopefully those things will be also amenable to you using them in other programming languages as well. So we'll kind of look at things like object-oriented programming or real-time programming and optimization and so on. But it is all going to be the foundations of it within C#. So if you're familiar with C or C++, you're going to be right at home in C#. If you know JavaScript, there will be certain things. If you don't know any programming languages, you just know BASIC or Java or something like that, we'll make do. Okay, we're going to kind of start from the beginning as best we can, but we do want to kind of move things at a reasonably quick pace. So the first project is going to be a simple text or audio adventure. Not a lot of graphics involved in that. It's mostly going to be kind of click on a button, something happens. Click on a button, something happens. A little bit of management of resources and things. Largely going to be back and forth via text. You're not going to be typing text, but the output to the user is going to be largely text and audio. Not a lot of graphics specifically. We're going to use this to kind of really learn the Canvas system and getting our feet wet with regards to Unity in general and C#. The second one is going to be something called the Apple Picker, which is also based on this classic Atari game called Kaboom, where a mad bomber drops bombs down from over a wall, and you have to catch them in a basket before they explode, sort of thing. And we're going to learn about C# collections and more about the Unity objects and the functions and methods that they have on them, like start, update, on collision, and so on, and more about user input and the graphics and scripting interactions and scripting behaviors and so on in that. And then the last two projects is where we're really going to kind of stretch some of our wings, or whatever you want to call it, stretch your legs, stretch your wings, and start to develop your own original games in some classic styles, the shoot 'em up or bullet hell or RPG, whatever you want to call it. The top-down game, that's going to be the first one, the third project, the top-down project, which is largely 2D physics without gravity. Imagine, you're looking down, say you're playing Pokemon, or you're playing typical RPG, walk around, or you're playing, was it Touhou, or you're playing Enter the Gungeon, or any of those games. Those are the top-down sort of game that we're going to call the shoot 'em up. Asteroids, for example, another good example, because I get some specific Asteroids type games for that. And then last but not least, the platformer, side scroller, things like, Mario come to mind, or Super Meat Boy come to mind, or Braid, or lots of different projects come to mind. And so that's going to be our last project. And we're going to, again, cover a lot of material, a lot of stuff in C#, and also a lot of features in Unity that, again, are hopefully 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100, are going to be applicable to other game engines as well. So don't get too worried about becoming a Unity expert, because even Unity changes from month to month and almost sometimes week to week, and certainly year to year. And there's new things happening in Unity all the time as well. So those are how we're going to do it. Now, each of those 4 projects is going to be housed within a single Unity project, though. Okay, so there's going to be one project to rule them all. Okay, once you install Unity, we're going to create one project, and I can give you an asset package that will help with some of this stuff. And there's going to be a basic screen at the beginning that will allow you to choose which of the games you want to play, which of the scenes that you want to play. And this is going to make life a little bit easier for all of us, in that we're going to set up a project. Each one of you is going to set up a project that then you can share with me. And once we have it working for the first one, it'll then work throughout the rest of the summer semester. So we don't have to worry. Previous iterations of the class, each project was separate, and that meant we had to make sure that everyone had shared everything to the Unity server correctly and all that every time. So this time, we're going to make life easier. You're going to have one project that you're going to then put your other assets and things in. That may mean that you have to be a little bit more careful about some of the management and some of the naming and how you organize your project, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right. So it'll enable us to set up something called Unity Team, and the seats within Unity Team and the collaboration. And once it's in place, we can use it for the rest of the semester. So that's how we're going to actually back up and use manage our software. You may you've probably used other tools like GitHub or Perforce or other things, but now we're going to use Unity Team to accomplish that. And it's going to allow you to share your projects to me, and I can change them and edit them and actually push them back up to you as well. Very, very, very simple. It's much easier than those other, GitHub, GitLab, Perforce, all this kind of stuff. Very, very low impact on that. So that brings us to homework 1, or homework 0. Sorry. Homework 0 is basically creating that account, downloading Unity, go to unity3d.com or unity.com. I think they both redirect, and get the personal version of Unity. You can get the personal or the student version, which is free, and you can also install Visual Studio on there. If you're offered the option, you want to install the support for WebGL in addition to Windows or Mac, depending on what you're building. And if you do support WebGL, we'll also be able to publish our games on the web. So that will be something we'll be wanting to do. So go ahead, use version 2019.3.14, may refer to as F1, but if you're wondering, it might have a letter and a number after that, but that's just the particular build. So 2019 3.14. Changes happen fast. Don't be tempted. Stay. Okay. Normally, you're going to just go to unity.com and get this and download it, but you can even go and download older versions if you wanted to. Or the nice thing about Unity is it'll let you put different versions even on the same machine. So create a 2D project that is named with your RCS ID _GSAS_2540. So this way I'll know the name of the project when you share it with me. So for example, I would have named it AMEREE _GSAS_2540. All right. It may ask you during the creation of that, or when you first set things up, whether you want to create an organization. And if you do want to create an organization, if it asks you, go ahead and name it with your RCS ID _ORG, and feel free to invite me to be part of that organization in order to collaborate on that project. We'll go into more detail on that in a minute as well. You'll probably see this page, download Unity 2019 3.14. You're going to install Unity Hub as well, right? Unity Hub is the way it manages your projects and manages your potentially multiple installations of Unity. Excuse me. Okay. And when you create a project, as some of this will come up as part of when you have to set up an account. Okay, so if you set up an account, it may ask you during setting up your account, do you want to create an organization, right? And if you do, go ahead and create that organization according to the rules I just said. And make sure this is one good reason to use the Unity education, because that's really going to be the thing that makes sure that you're able to add seats to the project. So if given the choice, make sure to use the Unity Education free version, right? And then once you have your organization, or you create a project or so on, you're going to use this this screen here. That would be the thing that would invite people to your project or invite people into your organization, all right? You can refer back to this, and when you're creating that project, you'll see you may need to add services. So refer back to this screen to say, okay, after you've created a project, say Window, General, Services, and enable Collaborate. Okay, enable the collaboration service. That's going to allow you to push things up to the web, and this will be a backup of your project. This will allow you to kind of create revisions of your project. This is the notion of doing a push to Git. This is how you do it inside of Unity, and it's really, really simple. You're just going to wind up putting a comment and saying publish. Now, whenever you see this blue up arrow, that means you have made changes to your local project and you want to push it up. You see a green check there, it means you are in sync with the Unity Team server. So once again, make sure Window, General, Services, Collaborate is turned on, and that then you're going to be able to publish. Now, if you do need to add people to the project, you use this what looks like a little group of 3 people down here, and you can click on that. It'll ask you who you want to add. If you add it by email name, it's going to be ameree@rpi.edu. Okay. Right. So as you're using Unity Teams and so on, make sure that you're careful in naming your projects. It's kind of weird. Unity is not really easy to change project names inside of. Once you name it, it kind of wants to stick around because of all these IDs and because of the system. So be careful naming your projects. Try to get it right the first time. Okay. Once you are set up, though, use Unity Teams right away and use it as often as possible. Every time you save, you can go ahead and upload. There's really no reason not to. Some people like to save those things for bigger chunks of code, or you don't necessarily want to add stuff to the repository if your code is broken. Some people want to just upload code that works, and that's a good practice. But make sure that you do use it on a regular basis, because I expect to see at least weekly updates for each of your portions of the project. Hopefully, even more than that. Right? I want to see constant, consistent progress as you go along. No waiting till the last minute, right? We're going to spread those 4 projects throughout the summer semester, but I expect you to be making progress on them at least on a weekly basis, all right? So go ahead, initialize that new project right as soon as we start. That's good. And then submit changes to Unity Team Cloud every time you work on the project. That's fine. And in the end, this is worth points, right? I am going to take that into consideration, right? So, and we're going to make sure for this first version, I'm going to go and I'll double check and make sure you've shared the project to me. Now, as we go through the course, one common thing, I like to point this out right away, we're going to want to manage our ambitions and avoid temptation, right? And the temptation here is to go overboard, right? We're going to be wanting to create a decent hamburger, but maybe we get sidetracked by pickles. We just love pickles. And sooner, what happens is you wind up overdoing it. And you just have nothing but pickles, and you can't see the rest of the project because of the pickles. And maybe you even didn't pay attention to the rest of the project. You left the burgers off because you were obsessed with the pickles, okay? So be careful. This is going to be, make sure you cover the basics first. Make sure you have a good, solid hamburger base first before you decide to smother it in pickles. All right. So that's the basics. That's us for today. Like I said, I wanted to keep things around 30 minutes or so per lecture, and I guess we're kind of in that ballpark. We're a little bit over. Hi again. We're what, 30, going on 38 minutes. So I'm excited to have you all here along for the ride for the summer. And first thing you do, of course, make sure that you have checked in on Discord, that you've pushed. That you've created your ID there. I'm going to ask for you to also create a nickname for yourself on that particular Discord server. That's going to be different than your normal Discord name. Use the /n and add a nickname on our channel or our particular Intro to Game Programming server. And what I want you to do is I want you to put your RCS ID in there. Otherwise, I see everybody's great Discord names, and I have no idea who I'm actually talking to. So ideally, you would put your nickname would be, what you want to be referred to, or how you want to be referred to, and also your RCS ID, so that I can make sense of that. So as I'm trying to line up things back and forth, I can do that. So once again, happy to have you on board for the summer. Let's make the best of the whole situation where we're really relying online to do a lot of things. But I think, it can be a good thing. The immediacy, we can see what's going on other people's machines by using a lot of the collaborative tools. Discord, Twitch are going to be really, really great for that. We can have our meetings online and so on, and we'll make the best of it. And actually, in the future, chances are you're going to be doing this sort of thing as part of game development anyway, because you are, very, very often a lot of game projects do wind up with distributed teams where you're going to be working with people potentially all over the world even. So better to learn how to deal with it sooner than later, I guess. All right, so I'll be talking to you soon. Keep an eye out for more videos. We're getting into more detail on each and every one of them. Take care. Welcome back, or welcome to the summer arch.